And thank you for joining us today on the Road to Recovery. I'm your host, Ronda Jackson, serial entrepreneur and small business advocate. And joining us today for this timely money conversation, yes, I said it, the big M word, money conversation, is the CFO consultant, Miss Admira Adovic. How are you, Admira?
Good. How are you, Rhonda? Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. So, you and I have a tangle web of how we know each other as women business owners, as fellow entrepreneurs. Will you share with the audience just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Edmira, as Rhonda just mentioned. I'm a CFO consultant, and I focus on empowering financial education for entrepreneurs, mainly so that they can make more money, so they stay on mission. And what I mean by saying that is that I help entrepreneurs understand the basics when it comes to running their business. I say it all the time, money tells a story. You need to understand what story the numbers are telling you. So I help them understand what that story is and how it translates into what it means for their business.
Beautiful. And that's one of the reasons why I invited you here today, because some of the resources that we have now as entrepreneurs are a little more tight, a little
Yeah.
a little more scarce than what was in abundance before, but we're believing and knowing that those things are about to turn around. So we want to be wealth wise about how we continue with our finances. So
Yeah.
thank you again for being here today. One of the ways that I like to start the show is I like to ask guests for one word they would use to describe now. What would your word be?
I, New normal.
Okay. All right. Say a little more. Why'd you pick those two words?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this lately because now that things are starting to reopen and just talking to more with people and meeting with people in person, and everyone is just telling me something about the new normal. Like, oh, the new normal is working from home and not being in office.
Okay.
Oh, the new normal is you know going local and not traveling international, even though the roads are opening. And then business wise, it's like the new normal. People are figuring out, not just from finance, but every aspect of business, the new normal, new HR normal, new finance normal. Everything is that in a way, like everything we knew, we had to relearn.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm saying the new normal, because I'm seeing it in every aspect.
Yeah, but I like that you brought that up about the learning, because I know that you're a huge proponent of education, but there are also things, and this is just from some of my interaction with you, that we as entrepreneurs emerging and established need to unlearn. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm hoping that we get to all of this, and promise me that if this segment, goes over, that you'll be willing to come back for more deeper dive. So, okay. So,
Absolutely.
new normal, our money story, which was another
Yeah.
good one. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to borrow that one. I like that one. So, folks, if you're ready for this money story, if you're ready for this discussion, first thing I got to ask you to do is down below, above the description box, there's that little red button. Press subscribe. That way, you know when this and other timely information comes straight to you from the Road to Recovery. Click the bell if you want notifications. But thank you. So, Amira, how do we begin? Okay, first of all, what is a CFO? What does a CFO do?
Great question. So CFO is, if it's the easiest way to explain it is, you have a bookkeeper that looks at the past and records what happened in the past. You have a CPA that mainly focuses on preparing tax returns for you. So staying compliant with the Uncle Sam.
Yes.
And then you have the CFO in the middle. So we look what happens in the past, but we're trying to predict the future. And we're
Ah,
trying to project, where are you standing, how are you standing, what you should be looking for, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Now there's more to the just like, oh, I think this is what's going to happen. I mean, more goes into it than just like wishful thinking. But we take the information where the bookkeeper leaves it off, and we start looking towards the future and start giving you sense of like what you should be doing. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I want to hire 5 people, and the CFO would be like, sounds good. Um, how about 3? Because 5 might be a little too much. Like, because as entrepreneurs, we're very ambitious.
yes.
Like we wanna, like we have this visionary view, and which is necessary when you run a business, of course. And you have that CFO here where they are a partner, where it's like, I see the vision you're going for,
Right.
but I want to make sure you're going it the right way, so
I,
you don't get yourself into trouble.
I like where again, this is part of that education, and it's been wonderful knowing you. So part of that education, and you mentioned the bookkeeper and, the accurate numbers. And then what I'm understanding you saying is the CFO helps you quantify those numbers, right? So a dollar earned yesterday means what 5 months, 5 weeks, 5 years from now, right? So I think that's the gist of what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
So then what are you finding in all of I know you do a lot of consultative work with other entrepreneurs as well. What are you finding as the biggest pain point or the biggest things that entrepreneurs could do different in how we look at our finances and look at our relationship with a CFO or not?
Yeah, I would say the most important things I have seen from a small business piece, because CFOs work with range of entrepreneurs, and usually they mainly focus on larger companies.
Okay.
I mainly focus with small businesses, and when I say small business, less than 5 million. And for this particular group of entrepreneurs, the biggest pinpoint is the mindset. And when I say the mindset is, they're a lot of times reacting to the information given to them. They're not proactive. It's like they run their business based on a checking account. I see it every single time. And it's a very stressful way to run a business, because you really just like, it's what is on my checking account today. I'm like, yeah, but what about all the bills that didn't come yet?
Right.
What about all the revenue that your customers didn't pay you, and are they going to pay you? Like, what about all of that? And so for that, you need to have a proactive mindset where it's like, okay, I need to proactively think what's going to happen. I need to proactively start doing these things where it's like, I'm going to project the revenue. I'm going to project the expenses. I'm going to look at the cash flow, like make sense of it, and not make decisions just based on what's on your checking account. And that's the biggest one that I have seen for the smaller group of entrepreneurs.
No, I like that. And honestly, I can even relate to a lot of the things that you were saying in past and in current, to be honest. So one of the things that I would love to hear you talk about, so I understand about expenses and how much is coming in, but then how does an entrepreneur look at those numbers, or what's an approach to looking at those numbers to plan for growth?
Yeah, great question. So, and again, going back to the mindset, proactive and reactive, right? Like when you run your business out of a checking account, you are basing all the decisions based on cash. It's not very helpful when it comes to growth. And here's the reason. And there's an accounting term called accrual. And a lot of people get confused what that is, because there's a cash basis and accrual basis. And I know this is now financial terms, so I'm going to break it down very simple so it makes sense. Okay. But cash basis just means that you're recording the cash that's coming in and the cash that's going out. That's it. Why this is not good for growth is because when you're trying to understand how much expenses, how much money you need to spend to earn a certain amount of revenue, cash basis is not going to tell you that number. It's not that, those numbers are not going to tell you the story, as I say it. Yeah. That's where the accrual comes in. And accrual, pretty much all it means is that you're going to record the revenue when you earned it, when you did the work. And you're going to record the expenses when they incurred, when you actually spend them. So now you have what is called the matching principle. So you're matching the revenue with the expenses. And therefore, like, let's just say I made $1 million. And to make the $1 million, I had to spend 500,000.
Right.
Now I know that if I want to grow to 2 million, I am going to expect to spend $1 million worth of expenses. And now it's much easier to be like, okay, now I know what to expect. Now I can be proactive about it and then be mindful, and then you have a more linear way. So it's really, really important. And I spent quite a bit of time on this particular case because most of entrepreneurs run cash basis accounting in their business. And I'm like, that's great. When it comes to growth, though, we would want to go in accrual side, because it's very important that we understand these two numbers. Otherwise, you're just going to blindly go into growth. And we know what happens when you blindly go into things. It's like, it just doesn't work out the best.
No, I understand. And then, but again, you are definitely a huge proponent of education and of understanding what that money story looks like. And so let's talk a little bit, because one of those educational components is something that you do often. You offer a series, in several forms of classes. Can you talk a little bit about what the journey through that educational snapshot looks like?
Yeah. So when we go through the journey of understanding the road to final destination, I happen to love to travel, and so I relate everything to traveling. Okay. So, but this particular, the way I see things is, first we need to understand where are we going, mm-hmm. What are we trying to accomplish, and so it goes with business the same way. And when I say from business, it's not just what the business is trying to accomplish, but as an entrepreneur, what do you want? Like, what do you want to accomplish with this business? Yeah. And different people have different goals. And I try to make my entrepreneurs be adventurous with their goals. I'm like, we will have small goals, but I also want you to think 10 years from now. Like, I want to own a helicopter. Yes. Great. If that's what you like to do, that's awesome. Let's plan for it. Yeah. It is doable. Trust me. Mm-hmm. I've gotten entrepreneurs to get to that point, but they have created that list of like, what are you trying to accomplish? Then we go into, where are you now? So, like, where are you located? What are you doing? How are things now? And we go into the numbers piece, where I was talking about accrual piece and understanding the numbers. Right. And then we go into a plan to get there. So go ahead. So
this is by boat, by train, by car, whether it be, through project growth. Do they need to do an acquisition and merger? Do they need to offer a different service or product offering? So that expansion type mentality. Yeah. And I think I just want to digress for 1 second, because you said the word mindset, and the approach and the thinking in how you want to do that, because the mindset is also what's going to have you even open up yourself to utilize a CFO, right? Mm-hmm. I know as a solopreneur, a lot of times you think you can handle it all, but I think as in shifting with that mindset, we want to rip that S, that superwoman, badge off of our chest, and let that S stand for support. So experts like yourself, experts in, various other fields where, I'm a wonderful designer, I'm a wonderful paint contractor, but, do I have the bandwidth and the wherewithal to be all those components? Because even for what you do, there's still specialized services adjacent to that. So that
it's, I spend quite a bit of time, usually on social media, talking about different aspects of things that, I share experiences that I have gone through and I have witnessed, and I share them out there because maybe somebody else can hear it and, can relate to. But I will say this, when it comes to finance and probably other aspects, but, I'm mainly in finance, there's this thing in entrepreneurship where it's like, we need to know it all and we need to do it all. And if we don't, then we are failing. Right. And if we don't know something, then we are really ashamed of like, what is that we don't know? And I say it all the time, like, as entrepreneurs, you don't need to know it all. Right. You just need to know a little bit of everything. Yeah. Now, I never say blindly trust anybody with your business. Yes. Period, full stop. It's your business, it's your baby, and you should not trust anybody to develop this baby. And it goes with finance and everything else. But doesn't mean that you need to be an expert. No. It doesn't mean that you need to be a CFO. Just understand the basic. And that's why I focus on financial education. It's like, I don't need you to trust me, like blindly trust me. I will teach you what these mean so you can make a decision for yourself. At no point do I ever make a decision for an entrepreneur. Right. So, I never do it.
So if there's an entrepreneur within the sound of our voice that is interested in developing that conversation, understanding what you offer, and maybe jurying, looking at a CFO or something, services in that realm, what's the best way to contact you?
The best way would be through my website, carecfo.com, K with a K, care with a K, carecfo.com. And there is all my contact information, including links to my social media for people to follow me.
Oh, I love it. Okay. And so what we'll do is, again, we'll include those links in the description box. And if you're not sure where that is, it is right below that little red button with subscribe on it. If you haven't done so already, click on it. And then I'm going to ask Admira one last question. What does every entrepreneur within the sound of our voices need to do today? What's the one thing?
The one thing, oh, well, this is a tough one because there's so many things I can think of
Just
right now.
one, like first, what's the one?
The number one thing is having the right numbers in your book. So that accrual I was just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
have that ready and start paying attention to those numbers.
Okay. All right. I love it. I love it. So then I just want to invite you back because I know that this discovery was just a tip of the iceberg on our finances and how to grow as entrepreneurs. Maybe we can plan to have that next discussion about that first step. Like once we've secured our right numbers, what does it look like to look at those numbers? And what's that first money story that we're going to see when we look at that? So if you'll come back for that, I
Absolutely.
would really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
All right. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Rhonda.